Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us in another of our Tuesday at 2 presentations. We are WasteWater Education. We're based in Traverse City, Michigan, but we are a regional and actually a national 501c3. And the caption there on the slide pretty much sums up what we do. We are involved in anything that involves the recycling, the repurposing, the appreciation of the role of wastewater treatment within the water cycle, and the sustainability of water resources by including adequate treatment. There's a reason that the average life expectancy in the U.S. has doubled in the past century, and that has mostly to do with two things: refrigeration and good sanitation. That being said, we take our role as a 501c3 very, very seriously. I'm going to move on here. And that's my contact information should you wish to follow up with me after the event. We look upon us as being part of the overall community of nonprofits. We take a pretty dim view of nonprofits who don't share their public purpose and their public role. And we decided pretty early on that if we were going to be looking at educating ourselves for a particular way to run or operate our nonprofit, that we would make those resources available to all nonprofits who wanted to join us. We have a Blackboard Collaborate license that we are very fortunate to have. We originally purchased it through a grant from Freshwater Future. And we like to use this not just for our purposes, but for also the greater good of all of the nonprofit communities in Northwest Michigan. That being said, we do actually have to read our legal disclaimer. Our Tuesday at 2 events are always free. They're always open until we fill up the maximum number of seats that we can accommodate. And really, Tuesday at 2 is intended to provide a forum for the free exchange of ideas among individuals and organizations. And our intent is to form and to foster partnerships and create and enhance the resource networks for anyone who's interested in integrated water resource planning and management. We should point out that the information and the conclusions presented in these events represent the opinion of the presenter, and they should not be construed as necessarily representing our opinions or being an endorsement by us of any technology or individual by the organization WasteWater Education 501c3. And that being said, again, I want to thank our presenter today, who is Chris Middings, who we got in touch with through our LinkedIn for Nonprofits group membership. We were looking to do something a bit more sophisticated with our Google Grants program. We've been a Google for Nonprofits member for a good many years, but we come to the conclusion that we really weren't taking the best advantage of it. And so at this point, Chris, I'm going to turn it over to you so that you can fill in people exactly what Google Ad Grants and Google for Nonprofits actually are. Take it away, Chris, and introduce yourself.
Thank you, Dindra. So, yeah, we did meet through LinkedIn, and there's lots of ways that nonprofits collaborate. This Google program is just a wonderful program. I started working with this program when I was at 7th generation, and we were given volunteer time, and that's what I would do in my volunteer time, is help nonprofits with Google Ad Grants. I've been running Google AdWords programs for about 12 years, so it just seemed natural to allow nonprofits to have the benefit of someone who knows how to, navigate Google. It's not always easy, and that's why you'll see this slide from time to time today. There are 3 programs that you'll need to become familiar with in order to use a Google Ad Grant. The umbrella one is the Google for Nonprofits. Inside Google for Nonprofits is the Ad Grants, and then inside that is the AdWords program. So we'll start with Google for Nonprofits. Now this is a great program. Google has done a decent job to be a responsible corporate citizen, and part of that is allowing nonprofits to use their tools. So they allow nonprofits free access to these Google tools, which some are paid for-profits, but for nonprofits they're not. And we'll walk through these a little bit. Google Apps, lots of nonprofits use this. This is free email and file hosting, that kind of thing. Just a great way to be able to organize nonprofit communications and not have to rely on a monthly fee. There's also YouTube for nonprofits, which is just a great way to organize your videos. You get the ability to do a call to action overlay on your videos, which for-profits would die to have, so that if you have an interested viewer, you can ask for donations at the end of the video. There's Google Earth, where you can use their mapping technology. And there's also OneToday, which Dendra can address. It's a mobile app that helps you to fundraise. And this is how Dendra's group has used it. Dendra, do you want to talk about this a bit? I don't hear back. But they allow you to ask for donations through their program. And then there's the Google Ad Grant, and this is what we're going to be talking about today, so this is where it falls on that map. Google Ad Grants it's a way of using AdWords, which is Google's online advertising tool. And it gives you $10,000 a month for this advertising. So it's a $10,000 a month credit that you can use to spread the word. You can use it to promote your mission or events or to do fundraising. And you run it just the way a for-profit would. And you create campaigns and ad groups and ads, and you attract viewers by keywords. We'll get into that. And this just shows where those ads show up. So most people are familiar with this. If you're not blocking ads on your browser, you'll see these. And these will generate traffic to your website.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was just turning off our phones and didn't realize you were talking to me. This is really what kind of returns you get after you have signed up with Google and you have your G+ and your Google Drive account and you've enabled Google Grants. Your search is now part of the overall Google strategy. So it's not just that it returns visitors to your site, it's that it feeds into the Google search engine. And so if you enter in the terms that you used to create your Google Grants into the search, this is what it turns up, which in our case, of course, is all of our programs. Sure, if you want to go back to that slide.
Today? Do you want to go back to that?
Yeah. We were one of the beta testers for the OneToday program. And what it is designed to do is to push text messages out. I do believe at this point it's only for the Android operating system, not iPhones, but that may have changed or be in the process of changing. And you create, and actually anybody now can sign up for this, you create your account on OneToday and you fill in something that will feed into the main screen of a smartphone. There are certain guidelines you have to follow. The images, you have to have copyright privileges to reproduce them. They have to obviously be not offensive. They have to relate exactly to what you're seeking donations for. But the idea is that you give $1. And you're not constrained to actually asking for $1. You'll see the hours range from 5 to 75. I think we're running about 6 different programs at the moment. But it asks you to make that link between what you're asking people to donate and what the result will be. So the first one there that you see is our $5, 5 hours saved, 5 minutes to actually do a basic toilet repair kit. For $5 you can get a repair kit to save how many, 15, 25 gallons of good drinking water going down your toilet just because you have a bad leak. Would encourage people that sign up for the Google for NonProfits partnership to investigate this, because if you're familiar at all with Pew Charitable Trust's reports of internet and web usage, you will know that smartphone use is now, I do believe, the majority device for people to access the internet. So it goes back to a future event, which I'm sure we'll hold, is how to craft your messaging and your images to be served on a mobile device. So back to you, Chris.
Great. So we talked about this, and here we are. So with ad grants, you can engage with people who are typing in keywords that would relate to what's going on your website. So that might be donors if someone's looking to make a donation. You could coordinate volunteers if people are looking to do volunteer work. You could raise awareness of an event. You can get newsletter signups. If someone wants to be educated about a topic, you could run ads to get newsletter signups, and basically promote anything that's going on your website. And how Ad Grants does this is they use the same program they use for a for-profit organization, Google AdWords. And the way that works is, if you've ever searched on Google, you'll see those ads, and the way that those ads get shown is that a company or organization picks keywords that they want their ad to show for. So if you ran a nonprofit that helped wildlife, and someone got a tax return and wants to make a donation and types in wildlife donation, you'd be able to have your ad show up. That's how those ads get there. It's an audience that is basically raised their hand already. They're actively sitting down, bringing up a search engine, typing in keywords. It's not a passive thing. It's not like they're reading a magazine and there's an ad on the side. They're actively looking to engage in whatever subject area it is that they're typing in. And if you can direct them to the proper page on your website, then you hopefully will get them to engage with you. To be eligible, you just have to have a 501c3 and not have any discriminatory policies. There are some folks who can't join: government, hospitals, healthcare, schools. They have an education program that those folks get run through. And you may be familiar with Google and education. Some nonprofits get their Google apps through that, and it's kind of up in the air as to consolidating those things, but I think that's probably coming. So how do you do this? How do you get a Google Ad Grant? There's 4 basic steps. The first one is you've got to get into the Google for NonProfits program, and that's this one. In order to do that, you'd want to create a Google account, and you may already have Gmail or a Google Plus page, something like that. You may want to create a new account specific to the Google for Nonprofits program. And the reason for that is once you're in the program, it's very difficult to add another administrator. So if you have someone on staff who has a Gmail address and you would, oh, we'll just use this account, and they leave or something happens where you don't have access to that, it's going to be hard to get into your account. So I recommend just creating a Google account, call it something to do with Google for Nonprofits or something that everyone can use to log in. Not something tied to someone's personal email or some other account that you have with Google that might have sensitive information. So you just create a Google account unique to Google for Nonprofits. There's just a few fields to fill in. I would recommend the birthday. I think you probably have to be at least 18. I know as an organization it seems silly, but that's how Google does it. And then gender, I think you can pick none or other, and just fill out the rest for the Google account and get the Gmail address. And then when you go to Google for Nonprofits, this is what you're faced with. And the most important thing to have on hand is the employer ID number. And that's going to tie directly into the IRS database of 501c3s. So you'll know if you get that right. Just put that number in there and then click continue. The check boxes have to do with what we talked about before, which is that you don't have any discriminatory policies. And it used to be a little stricter in pointing out particular types of organizations, but this is just general text to make sure that Google's not giving you this money to fund a hate group of any sort. And you'll have the EIN from what you just had, so once you get to this page, you know that you're eligible. Just put in the name, your address, the website. For phone number, probably your general phone number, and then your mission statement, and that should be something that you can just cut and paste from your website. And the contact information that will become the administrator of the program. And again, the email, it's important to try and use this one specific to this purpose. I've worked a lot of nonprofits, and sometimes they're like, okay, we're ready to get an ad grant, and then they can't remember quite which email it was, and a month goes by when they could have been using it, but they're just trying to figure out which one it is. Because again, you can't add another administrator to it. And once you get that information in, there's just some text to read here, and then you can submit it. And I would suggest using these check boxes. I mean, you want to keep up to date on the program. And if they list you on their website, that can only help. And then you'll see this screen. They received it. And now, their estimates of how long things take, I always want to say, oh, okay, within 30 days, great. And, it used to be within 90 days. But I think the last application I put in was, I think it was 2 days. So it can happen very quickly. And you'll get an email at that address that you just put in that'll tell you that you've been approved. So once you are approved for Google Nonprofits, then you can enroll in the Google Ad Grants, which is here. So inside your Google for Nonprofits dashboard, you'll get to this page, see that you're approved, and then you'll click on Product Enrollments, and that's where you'll see the image we saw earlier. This is the one, Google Ad Grants, that you want to apply for, and feel free to apply for any of these others. We're only going to cover the Ad Grants today, but all of these are really great programs. And then you'll get to this page. And don't let this put you off. What you're doing when you're applying takes 5 minutes. It does not take 2 to 4 hours. That comes later once you're approved. And it does take a little bit of time, and I can certainly help you with that part. But this part only takes a few minutes. So here's where that slide where it says Google is confusing comes into play.
Chris, could you go back one slide, please, and just make the point that this button bit here that my account is set, that you have to come back. You don't have to come back and set this, do you?
Say that again?
Well, this slide here relates to the idea that you might have to enter a billing address, which you actually cover on your next slide. But this one here on the bottom where it says My Account, credit card information, that you really don't ever want to do that as a nonprofit.
Yes, and that is, we have a slide I think dedicated just to that. So that's a really important part. Google uses the same system for for-profits as nonprofits, and it's every time you do anything in there, it's like, okay, go set up your billing, go put in your credit card, and I've had nonprofits do that. But unfortunately, if you ever do that, it's no longer a grant account, and you'll start getting charged. So yeah, it's just important, and we'll address it again later. And should that ever happen, and you think, oh my God, now what am I going to do? There's an easy fix. You set up a new account. I could walk you through the process of that. It's not hard, but it is. You have to go through the approval process again. So this is where it starts getting confusing. We have the Google for Nonprofits, we have the Google Ad Grants, and now we get into AdWords, and the confusing part comes. You want to leave this page up and go to a new browser or a new browser window, and this is what you're going to want to get when you come back to this page, is the AdWords customer ID. So keep this page up, and the next slide is just a continuation of this page. And so you check off those boxes, and you'd want to get to this number. So in order to get this number, that's where we get into AdWords. And we'll do another session on AdWords, but we'll do the basics now. So open a new browser window, choose your country, time zone, currency. It can only be US dollars. And this is AdWords, Google AdWords. So you create the account, log in. You can use the same login that you created before for this, if you think that it'll be okay that folks who have access to nonprofits also has access to this. But if you can set up a new account specific just for this if you want. This one's easy to share with other people. You can add people to it, but that's up to you if you want to create a different account for this. So it used to be that was the end, but now Google wants you to create at least your first campaign in order to apply, which they changed in the middle of the night one night and didn't tell anyone. But that's the way it is now. But we'll get to that next time. If you have to do this and you're up in the middle of the night doing this, create your first campaign. Just use your organization name as a keyword. That's a real simple fix if you don't have time to do the whole thing. But we'll talk about that next time. So once you get that in, there's a customer ID. That's the number that you want. So you just copy that number. Just make sure you get it right. Just copy it, and then you want to paste it into that screen that you had left open here. So hopefully that wasn't too confusing, but we can address any questions about that in in the questions after this slideshow. But it is kind of weird. You go into one program, you got to go into another program, and then you got to come back to this, and it just can create confusion. If you get interrupted, forget it. It's going to be really confusing. So do allow some quiet time to get through the process. It doesn't take long if you do it right. And they just added the 300 to 500 words. I find it's not too difficult. If you take your mission statement, or if you have anything on your website that talks about your organization's goals, you can kind of take that text and then say, we're going to use Google AdWords to market, or to try and get more donations, or try and get more volunteers, or whatever it is in that description. You can usually modify it pretty easily and we will use Google AdWords to support this program at the end of it. And that I've done a bunch of these, and that seems to be good. I mean, they just want to see, how are you going to use AdWords to make a social impact? And typically, it's just amplifying what you're doing already. At the bottom, they're saying 30 to 60 days. This number varies. I think, the last one I think was less than 24 hours. There was approval, which is shocking. But I think Google's recently put more resources into this program, because it used to be a couple weeks, and then now they're saying 30 to 60 days. But it could be much quicker. And once you apply, then you'll have this on your dashboard where it's received. And then you'll get an email back, and your status will change to approved. So you've created a new account, and you've applied to Google for Nonprofits with the new account. So be sure to check that account. And you can easily go into Gmail and say, take every email that comes in here and forward it to this email address, which I do a lot of, because it's hard to log into 6 different accounts a day. But that would be the important thing, is either check that email address daily, or check your Google for Nonprofits page daily, because it'll just show up as approved. No particular timeline. And then once you're approved, that's when you need to create up the AdWords account. And it can take a few hours, depending on how big your website is. But typically, you have like volunteers or donations or events or programs, and typically how your website is navigated is a good guide to creating the AdWords account. And we'll look at it next time, but it's not terribly difficult, but it does require some learning how to use. But once you do, it goes live, and your traffic's going to be coming in that same day. And every nonprofit I work with sees that this becomes their #1 source of traffic. And the good thing about this traffic is you're saying what page to land on. So if it's about donations, you'll be landing them on the donations page. Or if it's about volunteers, you'll land them on the volunteers page. And in regular, the organic search results, you don't really get to choose how to, say, oh, well, this is about this particular topic, let's land them on this page. And that's the beauty of paid search, is that you're able to say, I want this traffic to go here. And they don't have to navigate around to try and find it. They get right to the page that is going to best address their issues. whatever it is you're trying to get folks to do, you can point them directly to that. And this is the warning slide. I've had folks do this, and you just got to go through the approval process again, but it'll prompt you at every turn to put in your credit card information, and I wish that they would create a new program just for nonprofits so that this didn't happen, because it's hard. You may have a volunteer coming in and running this, and they may not be familiar with it, so it's just a overall warning to not ever do that, because it will revert to a paid account, and there's no way to unrevert it. It'll just become a paid account, and that's that. And you have to set up a new one and reapply. And like I said, if you ever get into a situation like this, it would take me maybe 15 minutes to export your account, import it back into a new account. So it's not the end of the world. It's just, there'll be a delay as you get reapproved. So they provide you $330 a day, and every once in a while you'll exceed that. I've seen $333 days, but you're not charged for that. Once you hit that, your ads just start showing up, and it's kind of hard to get up to $330 a day if you're a regional organization and you're only targeting a few states or a few counties, but there's no penalty for not using it all. You just get what traffic you can. And for things like donations, there's no reason to restrict those to just your geographic region. There could be somebody who came from Michigan who now lives in New Jersey and still remembers the organization and is searching for it. There's no reason to restrict it for things like that. But if it's for programs that only pertain to people in a particular region, then probably just want to run your ads in that geographic region. So maximum cost per click is $2. This was $1 up until the very beginning of the year. And $2 is great. You can, every nonprofit I saw got twice the traffic once they changed this. But you usually pay, between 50 cents and $2 a click. So $330 can go a long way. If you're paying 50 cents a click, that's a lot of traffic to your site in one day. And Google has search, and then they also have what they call their display network, which is ads that go out to magazines and blogs. They pay those magazines and blogs to run ads, so they don't offer that for free. It's just the search part, just the keyword targeted campaigns, which are actually the best ones to be involved in, because again, this person's not passively seeing an ad, they're actively typing and looking for what you have to offer. And those will only appear on Google.com. Google has search partners where they syndicate ads out through different search companies. This is, again, they're probably paying those other companies, so they're not giving that away, but they are on Google, which is 85% of search traffic comes from Google, so you're still hitting the majority. And there'll be text ads, which is fine. You can dress up text ads with phone numbers and Google Plus pages and site links, deeper links into your site. There's lots you can do with text ads. They're not as boring as it sounds. And then this grant just keeps going. I've run some of these for probably 7 years now. I think they've been doing it about 10 years. So it's just perpetual. You don't have to really worry about, well, is this just for 1 year? What can I do in 1 year? Once you go through the process, it just keeps going. So some criteria: you have to have a website. Google only allows you to send these ads to one URL, one website. So if you have multiple websites, it used to be up until July, I think, that you could send traffic to multiple websites. but now they've restricted to just the one. So what some people do is they create a page that talks about their other website and then send the links to that page, and then hopefully Google will go out to the other page. You just keep your keywords relevant. You don't really need traffic for things that you're not going to be able to help people with. And you can't be running Google AdSense, which is Google's ad syndication. They don't want people taking this money to make money. And you can use an outside agency to manage it. That's great. There are lots of folks who can do that. It's not terribly difficult if you have somebody on staff who does digital marketing at all. They can usually learn how to do it, and it's a great skill set to have on hand, especially if you have like an event coming up and you want to run an ad just for that event. You're just able to do it that much quicker if you have somebody who can do it on staff. And Google does require folks to actively manage their accounts. They don't want them to just lie fallow and not be used. And they also want to be able to communicate with you, and the email requests have to do with the account. It's not like they're going to be spamming you with sales messages or something. It's really just so that you can remain actively engaged with the account and also learn about changes, like the ones I mentioned where the pay-per-click cost going from $1 to $2. I mean, that's good information to know if you have an account. And then the one website URL change that they made earlier this year, again, something that is important to you in running the account. You should be logging in at least monthly. I tend to look at these every day for the first month or so, just to refine keywords that aren't working and change ads, that kind of thing. But if you, for some reason, don't log in for 3 consecutive months and don't answer any email requests, then you may find yourself locked out. So just if you're going to do this, get resources in place to actively use it. And the keyword, again, is just another sort of relevancy thing. I mean, Google's whole reason for being is to connect people to information that's relevant. So you really want to be part of that. You want relevant keywords that point to a relevant page that people are going to be actively engaging with, rather than they're going to show up and leave 2 seconds later because it wasn't what they thought it was going to be. So just trying to focus in on attracting just the people who really want to get to your website. Now this second and third point, you can promote your products or someone else's products as long as 100% of the proceeds. So even if you're only getting 10% of the profit on a sale or 10% of the sales dollar, that's if all you're getting is 10%, that's 100% of the proceeds. So you are able to say, oh, get this t-shirt, this mug, or whatever it is that you have as a promotional item. You can do that. And this is, I'm belaboring this because it is confusing. Some people see this and think, oh, we can't promote those t-shirts or mugs. You can. And I'll show you an example in a second. The third one ties into this. It says your ads can't link to pages that are just links to other websites. And I think, again, this is coming on there. They don't want you to take this program and use it to make money in a way that's not supporting the nonprofit. So as long as that's your goal with the pages that you're landing folks on, you're going to pass muster. I mean, they're going to be okay with that. And I'll give you an example now. This is Project Laundry List encourages line drawing. And this is a page that every one of these links and images are from an affiliate that gives 25% of the sales back to this organization. So even though this whole part of the page is links to other websites, this is okay. Google has looked at this and they've approved it. The one thing I would say to do is this. Just make sure that people know 25% or 10%, all of the proceeds that the organization is going to receive from pointing you off-site are going to benefit the organization. So you can promote products. Just do it in a careful way. And again, the one website URL, that's a new policy for them. If you do change it, or if you have additional URLs, you can add those to the account, but again, it can only be one. So you can switch if you have to, but as long as it's only one at a time. And that's the basics of it. I'd love to answer questions. It's a lot of information, and I know it's confusing. I do this all day, and I'm still flummoxed by the process.